Hello and welcome to another episode of Killer Ant Reviews. Today I'll be talking about Isaac Asimov's the Bicentennial Man and other stories. Overall, this one was slightly disappointing because it's basically a bunch of short stories and novelettes, uh, and basically most of them were kind of meh. But I did like to say that I did love the Bicentennial Man. That was possibly the best story of his entire series. The rest weren't actually terrible; they were just kind of forgettable. But let's talk about the cover first. First of all, I absolutely love this cover, even though it's a little dark. Definitely shows a robot in thought. Back's just a standard back. But there is definitely like a few good stories here. One of them, probably the first one that I saw, was I think it's actually on the back. The when knowing, basically Earth is overpopulated and they're having trouble with food, and basically eventually a scientist and a bunch of people were basically going to poison most of the Earth to get the population down so they can get fed. It definitely shows the guy think about the ethics of it, and should they sacrifice a lot of the population in order for the human race to survive. And it did come up with a pretty good twist on it. There's also another one where there was a female robot being made, which was also pretty interesting. Those ones were basically some of the first of the short stories. There was another one later on where someone comes up with a theory that the president of the United States is actually a robot. That one also was pretty interesting. The rest, however, are just meh. There's nothing terrible in these. They're just not as good. There's one other short story about a couple of guys who are stuck because of a miniature black hole and have to figure out a way to get rescued with limited supplies. But I'd like to talk about the Bicentennial Man. That one was definitely the best, by far Isaac Asimov's best work. And in case you didn't know, there was a Bicentennial Man movie starring Robin Williams. That one wasn't as good because they added Robin Williams' humor and a love story in a story that really didn't have it. And plus they didn't show a few other big things that happened in the book either. And they changed a couple of characters. So basically the book is basically a robot who ends up starting off as being creative, he makes works of art, and his entire goal is to be free. However, his one problem is being free. He's still a robot. He's still held by the three laws. So any human can go up to him and basically have him obey their orders, even though he's technically free. Unfortunately, from what I remember, I haven't seen the movie in quite a while. I don't remember really a scene like that in the movie where he's walking down the street and people are heckling him. And the whole story is a little bit humorless. Basically, it's a pure drama. And also there's another thing where he actually has good relationships with his human family, like a guy who he called Sir or a Little Miss, and then it goes down to basically Little Miss's son, where in the movie the son kind of hates him. In the book, the son definitely works with him, trying to get his freedom and trying to help him out. And overall, I did like the book a lot better than the movie. I mean, most ratings it seems the movie were mixed. Like I said, it wasn't really a bad movie. It's just when it's comparing this to the book, it's much better. The book itself is about just over 200 pages, so it's actually a pretty good read. And basically it's a few novelettes in there and some short stories, so it doesn't take too much to get through. If you don't like one story, the next story would definitely pique your interest. So what would I give this? If it wasn't for the excellent Bicentennial Man, this would have been probably like a 7, but because of the excellent Bicentennial Man, I'm giving this a strong 7.5. Highly recommend it, especially if you're like into Isaac Asimov's book or Three Laws or just into some vintage sci-fi books. Highly recommend it, and well, that's all I can say. Another excellent book. So until next time, this is Killer Ant.